everybody, this is Beth here with another yoga practice. This practice was inspired by a special basketball player in my life. So I wanted to create something around knee stability and knee strengthening. But this will be good for really anyone who's in sports where you're having to do a lot. You're putting potentially some pressure around that knee joint, and just really good if you kind of feel like you might have a little something going on there. But it's certainly, as always, throughout this practice, if anything doesn't feel good, back off. Try to offer some different alternatives as we go through. So for practice today, you don't need a dog. You just need your mat and a strap. If you don't have a yoga strap, just grab a belt or a scarf or even potentially like a long towel. So just have that nearby as you come down onto your back. So just coming down with your knees bent, just kind of relax your arms at your sides, maybe kind of shift those shoulder blades down away from your ears. And we'll just start by gently taking both feet up to the ceiling. Your legs don't have to be perfectly straight here. And we're just going to start with some mobility, kind of warming up the legs here. So just bend and straighten the knees. Just not really putting too much thought into it. And then maybe beginning to just press up through the heels a little bit more as you press the feet up into the sky. And then drawing those knees into the chest. You can go ahead and put the feet on the floor and go ahead and grab your strap. So come to the middle of your strap and just loop it around just below the ball of your foot. And then just begin to straighten that leg. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. It doesn't have to be, perpendicular 90 degrees. It's whatever your range of motion is here. And just kind of walk your hands up the strap or your belt or your scarf, whatever you have. And then again here, we're just going to bend and straighten a little bit, not putting too much effort into it. Drawing that knee towards the chest. And then we'll straighten the leg here. And then we're going to put a little resistance into it. So make sure you kind of have all the slack out of the strap. And you're going to pull the knee in towards the chest, and you're resisting a little bit here. And then as you press up, you're going to press through the heel and resist with the strap. So resisting with that strap throughout the whole movement, you're making that leg, and particularly some around the muscles around the knee, work here to press that foot up to the sky. So driving with the heel up towards the sky. And again, if perfectly straight extension here at the top's not feeling good for you today, that's totally fine. Just take it to where you feel comfortable. All right, let's draw it in. Let's switch feet. So release that strap. Coming over to the other side, just below the ball of the foot. And again, just starting out here, just bending and straightening that knee, pressing that heel up towards the ceiling. No resistance here, just a gentle bend and straighten. Then we'll start to add some resistance here. So making sure you don't have any slack in the belt. And then bend at the elbows, draw that knee in towards the chest. We're kind of resisting a little bit here, and then resist and press that heel up towards the sky. Making sure you're flexing the foot here, pressing that heel up. So maybe beginning to feel the muscles around the knee and the back of the knee work here. Driving through the heel. go ahead and bend the knee, release the strap. You set that to the side. Let's hug the knees into the chest. If it feels good, you can kind of rock side to side. Might feel good on your lower back right now. All right. And then just relax, keeping the knees bent here. And you can actually set your arms down to your side. And we're just going to get some mobility through the hips here. So the knee is a stable joint, the hips are a mobile joint, so we want to make sure those hips are mobile. So just begin to open up, making circles, both knees going wide here. Just within your own range of motion, maybe smaller circles to start. And you can either keep the toes together or separate the feet. Separating the feet feels a little bit better for me. And then switch the directions of your circles, taking them the opposite direction here. And trying to use that whole hip socket here. As long as that feels, okay for you. We're never, again, if we're feeling any pain or strong sensation, we're backing away from that. But if you can, take that full range through the hip socket. All right, and then draw those knees back in. We're going to grab that strap once more. So we're going to take the knees wide here and kind of stack the feet on top. So if you're familiar with yoga, this is kind of a happy baby type pose. And then we're going to take that strap and put it on top, across the top of the feet here. And we'll start by just kind of pulling the feet down so that our knees are coming down towards our rib cage here. Might need to even out your strap a little bit. And then again here, we're going to resist a little bit with the straps. You're going to feel like we're pulling the strap down so our feet are coming down towards the floor. And then we're going to press up. So we're going to press through the heels and press straight. And then come down so your knees may come a little closer together here. And then straighten. Draw those knees and thighs towards the chest and then press through the heel to straighten. Resisting with that strap. Let's just go one more here. And I can release the strap. Draw those knees into the chest. So hugging both knees into the chest. Let's rock and roll to come up off our back. So hands behind the thighs. And then just roll forward and back along the spine. If this isn't comfortable for you, just roll off to one side. And then cross at the ankles here. We'll come on up through tabletop. And then just gently make your way to downward facing dog. So step both feet back. Keep a soft bend in the knees here. Hips up and back. Fingers spread nice and wide. Pressing through the floor. Shifting those shoulders back towards the thighs. And maybe pedal the feet here. So bend alternate knees. Stretching out the back of the calves. You can also kind of move the hips around here, whatever feels good. And then come up onto the balls of both feet. And then let the heels sink down towards the floor. Again, nice bend in the knees here. One more time, up onto the tippy toes. And then heels towards the floor. And then we're going to take a deep bend in the knees here. So the knees are almost coming down to the floor, but you're sitting back on this like crouching tiger position here, ready to pounce. And then we're going to just straighten the legs back up to downward facing dog. Again, they don't have to be completely straight. You can keep that soft bend in the knees or as much as you need. And then once again, bend those knees deeply, squat back. And then drive through the heels, downward facing dog. And then one more time, squat back. And then press up to downward facing dog. And then bend the knees a little bit here, look forward, and then just gently walk yourself to the front of the mat. Put a deep bend in the knees so the belly's all the way down on the thighs. And then placing the hands on the shins or the thighs. Inhale, come about halfway up so you find a long spine. Your shoulders can shift back. Crown of your head reaches away from you towards the front of the mat. And then exhale, fold. And then bend the knees deeply. Step back to that downward facing dog. And then we're going to step our right foot forward to the right palm. So you're coming into like a low lunge. And then you're just going to let that left knee come to the ground, release the toes. And then hands come to the thigh and torso comes up. And then from here, we're just going to kind of shift forward and back. So you're getting maybe a little stretch through the hip flexor psoas muscle here, but we're also starting to waken up these muscles around the knee again. And for this next move, we're going to make sure we keep the foot flat on the mat, so we're not going to come kind of off to the inside or outside of the foot. We're just going to make some small circles. So circle that knee around the ankle, limiting your range of motion so that you're keeping that foot flat on the floor. So take it in one direction here. Again, your circles may be bigger or smaller, just depending on how the knee is feeling today, your own range of motion. And let's switch directions. Again, really driving through the heel and the big toe. Keep that foot flat. All right, then come back through center. Plant the hands. Step back, downward facing dog. From here, bend the knees deeply, crouching tiger. And then press those heels to the ground, downward facing dog. One more time, bend the knees, crouch. And then press up, downward facing dog. And step that left foot forward. Lower the right knee down, release the toes. Hands come to the thigh. And same thing here, just shift forward and back. So if you're feeling a little wobbly, you can ground down through that shin on the floor here and kind of feel like you're scissoring your inner thighs together. That'll keep you a little bit more stable. And then we're going to add those knee circles again, keeping the foot flat. Just circle the knee above the ankle. Just in one direction to start. You have to really think about that big toe. Mine definitely wants to lift up off the ground. Maybe reduce that range of motion. And then switch the direction of your circle. Back to center, plant the hands again, step back, downward facing dog. You can probably guess what's coming. So bend the knees deeply, crouch down, and then straighten the legs, press the heels toward the floor. I'm not saying their heels are getting to the floor, they're just going in that direction. Again, squat down, bend the knees, and then press up. All right, this time, we're going to step the right foot forward. We're going to stay lifted on the back heel and knee. We're going to really ground down through that front foot here. And then go ahead and pivot the torso up. You can start with just hands to the hips here. And if you feel like you're kind of pitching forward because your hips are really tight, you can bend that back knee a little bit more. That'll get you to stack your shoulders, ribs, and hips here. And then we're going to take that same circle motion here. So a little bit more balance challenge perhaps. But we're just going to circle that knee here. Again, keep that foot flat. Maybe reducing that range of motion. Switching the direction of your circle. And I want you to lift up the hips and lose your balance, not really. Open up to warrior two. So your hips are squaring to that long edge of your mat. We're gonna keep that right knee bent here. And you've got some nice external rotation in this knee. So the knee's we're gonna start with the knee about over the ankle. And you can just leave your hands on your hips. We're not going to hold them up in warrior two the whole time. And then we're going to do the same thing here with circling that knee. Now, as we're doing that here, we're still going to ground down through this back leg. So make that back leg nice and strong. That back outer edge of that foot is still grounding into the floor. And that's going to give you some stability to work on this front circle here. Again, switch the direction of that circle. And again, if you feel any discomfort here, you can just back off this motion, either making it smaller or just foregoing this exercise altogether. Maybe coming back to a different day. All right, so we'll settle back to warrior two. And then let's cartwheel the hands down, frame that front foot, and come up on the back heel. Step back, downward facing dog. Again here, squat deeply, hips go back. And then come back, downward facing dog. Squat deeply, drive through the heels to straighten the legs. And then we'll step that left foot forward. Staying up on the back heel, ground down through that front foot. Gently coming up, crescent pose. And again, may need a little bit more of a bend in that right knee just to start, just to get myself to stack here. And then keeping that foot flat, I'm going to make those little circles. And switching directions. Then hold, and we're going to kind of lift the hips up and press that back heel down. I'm going to switch sides here, so I'll have my back to you. So bend in the left knee here, knees over the ankle, and I'm going to drive down now through this back foot. So that back right edge of my foot is grounding into the earth. And then my hips are squaring up again towards this long edge of the mat. So I'm really having to work on kind of the external rotation in this thigh, and then we're going to start those circles. And of course, you may find one side is a lot different than the other. That's okay. We're just kind of figuring these things out. And switch the direction of your circle. All right, come back to warrior two. Then from here, let's turn both of our feet in towards the long edge of the mat. So my toes are in front of the heels. If it's comfortable for you, maybe interlace those fingers behind the back. Otherwise, you can just take hands to hips. Take a deep breath in. And then as you exhale, you're going to fold forward, hinge at the hips. Got the fingers interlaced, let them come overhead. We're just going to take a nice wide forward fold here. If the arms are overhead and that doesn't feel good, you can take them to the floor. And we're just going to stretch out the back of the hamstrings here a little bit. And then everybody release the arms if they haven't already. We'll walk the hands under the shoulders, inhale halfway up. And then exhale, fold it down again. And then this time, let's inhale, let's come all the way up, pressing into the outer edges of the feet. And then just heel toe your feet a little bit closer together, about the width of your mat, so a little bit wider than hips distance apart. We're gonna come down into a Malasana squat. Just go as low as your hips and everything allow. So you can take your hands into prayer position here, and then we're just gonna sink down here. You may need to adjust your feet. Again, knees are tracking out towards the edges or in the same direction as the toes. And then just sink on down here. And it's okay if your range of motion is here, that's totally fine. Just hold it here. You can make this a little bit more active if you've got your elbows inside the knees by pressing knees into elbows. And of course, your elbows are just gently resisting back. All right, and if your heels are not all the way down on the floor here, you can always, just as you guys are still squatting there, roll up your mat and put the backs of your heels on that mat or a towel or something like that. So it's always a nice option to get that grounding down through the heels. All right, on your next breath from that Malasana squat, you're gonna press through the heels, come up to standing. And then you're gonna step wide again, so back to that wide position. This time, take your heels in, toes out. And we're just gonna lunge basically side to side. So bend into that right knee. We're gonna drive through the heel to switch sides. Just back and forth, knees tracking same direction as the toes. So starting out, just kind of light and easy here. And then maybe working a little bit lower. As we work lower, try not to let the hips pop up from side to side. Keep the hips level, and we're just working through the legs here. If you like, you can lift the toes up as you go from side to side. And then the next time we come over to the right, we're gonna hold and take the hands to the floor and walk the hands out, sink as far as you can go. And you do wanna pivot those left toes up to the ceiling here. So hips are going back, back, back. Hands walk forward to counterbalance. Stay here as long as you want, and then press back up. Walk yourself over to the other side, and flip those right toes up to the ceiling. Hips go back, hands walk forward. Takes a lot of strength to hold here, so I get it if you're feeling the burn. And then when you're ready, walk back out. Let's just come into that forward fold. Take a little breather. And then hands come to hips. And inhale all the way up to standing. And let's just heel toe the feet back together. And let's just bring the feet together, knees together, and just squat down kind of into a chair pose. So still have a little bit of a curve in my back, just a natural spine here. And we're just gonna do knee circles here. This might actually be nice to do at the beginning of your practice or any kind of warm-up that you do. It's kind of checking that mobility through the ankles, through the knees. And let's switch directions. All right, and then come up to standing. I'm gonna step up to the front of my mat. Let's inhale, take those arms overhead, just take a big stretch here. Maybe a little back bend if that feels good. And then hinge at your hips, soft bend in the knees as you fold all the way forward. Maybe let the body hang here. Again, neck just hangs loose, head is heavy. You can grab opposite elbows, take a little ragdoll, maybe a little sway side to side. And then bend the knees deeply, plant the hands, step back to plank for a moment. And then just lower the knees down, walk it on back, just shift the hips off to one side so you can come down into a seat. And just remove any flesh from underneath your sit bones. Let's put a big bend in the knees here to start. Flexing the toes up to the ceiling. Let's inhale your arms up. And exhale, reach towards the wall in front of you, just as far as your body allows while you're still keeping a straight spine. And then just let the hands come down wherever they may drop. Take a couple breaths here. And then if you feel like you have a little bit more room to move here, you can begin to straighten those legs a little bit more, pressing the backs of the knees towards the ground. Again, just taking it easy within your own range of motion. We're never forcing anything. Or you may just stay with those super bent knees. That's totally fine. All right, and then gently inhale it up. Now you can end here. I'm gonna actually include a few, I'm gonna call them bonus moves. So they're a little bit more on the strengthening side. So I don't know what time it is, but that's probably already a good amount of time. But if you want a little bit more, you can break up this practice and do it at other times. Go ahead and come down onto your side and just stack the hips. Start with our legs straight, just come down onto your forearms, so your elbows right underneath your shoulder. And then we're going to bend that top leg and just bring it, halfway up the thigh, wherever your range of motion is here. Flex that bottom leg. And then we're just gonna basically coming into a supported side plank. We're just gonna press through this foot and lift the hips and lower. So your hand can be wherever you want it to be, hands to the hip or resting on the thigh, whatever's comfortable. So you have a nice active, long, straight leg on the bottom, and then you're also pressing through that foot to help lift the hips. So if this is like you're super easy, you don't feel anything, you want a little bit more, straighten both legs, or you can stack the feet, that's an option too, and you can lift and lower the hips this way. So yogi's choice. Take a few on each side. And then when you're ready, switch over to the opposite side. So again, that hips are stacked, legs are straight to start, then you can bend that top leg, take the foot about halfway up the thigh, or you can keep both legs straight. Flex that bottom foot, and then you're just pressing up and lowering, lifting the hips and lowering. Nice and active through both legs here. Again, this bent knee foot is grounding through the floor, and that straight leg foot's nice and active. And again, you can stack the feet and lift and lower, or stagger their feet. All right, excellent. All right, the next move, you will need an additional prop. So if you are on carpet, if you happen to have sliders around that make it nice and slick, you can use those, or you can just use paper plates. If you are on tile or hardwood, you can just use a folded up blanket. So take whatever you have, move to the bottom edge of your mat, and place your prop right at that bottom edge. We're going to place our heels on those discs, plates, blanket, whatever you have, and come down onto our backs. And just make sure your hips are kind of still on the mat, but at the very bottom. So we're going to lift the toes. Heels are pressing into our prop. And to start, we're just going to really actively press through the heels to extend the legs straight. And then again, to reverse it, so you don't lose your prop, press into the heels and draw back in towards the body. So you can just work here. This is really activating the hamstrings and the muscles in the back of the legs here. If this seems super easy to you, then you can add on. So to add on, same starting position, heels grounding down, toes lifted, lift the hips up. So this is your traditional bridge here. And then you are going to slide slowly the heels away from you till the legs are straight. Then you can let the hips come down, draw them back in, and continue. If this is super easy for you, the next add-on is starting with the hips lifted, gently and slowly straighten those legs. Don't let the hips come down. Bend the knees to draw yourself back. Keep the hips lifted up in that bridge position. So 3 options there, whichever ones you want to work at and progress from. Totally cool. You don't probably have to do a whole lot of those, especially in the beginnings, because your hamstrings might be saying, hello, what are you expecting me to do? So that was the last of more of our strengthening ones. So definitely after that practice, if there's anything else you want to add in, let's go ahead and come into just a seated position here. And just do some neck rolls. Taking one direction and then the other. And then let's maybe stretch out the shoulders a little bit here. So take that right arm across the body, hug it into the chest. You can stay here if it feels good. Maybe turn towards that right shoulder. And then taking that same arm, reach it overhead, bend at the elbow. Let those right fingertips travel down the spine, a little tricep stretch. I also like to add a little side bend here sometimes. And release. And then let's take both hands to the floor. Let's walk the left fingertips away. Right arm comes up. Let's just add a little side stretch here. Ground through both sit bones. Just feel a nice long stretch along that rib cage. And come back up. And we'll take that the other side. So now the left arm comes across the body. Kind of hook the elbow there. Give it a little stretch. Maybe turn and look over to the left. That feels good for your neck. And certainly feel free to hold these a lot longer than I am. Say at least 30 seconds or so. And then reach that left arm overhead, bend through the elbow, a little tricep stretch, maybe a little side bend. And release. And then left arm overhead, right fingertips walk away. Another side bend. Round down through that left sit bone, it wants to pop up. And then back up. And then maybe just one last thing that I might recommend, just to kind of open up your chest a little bit if you've kind of been hunched over in the car to and from practice. So just taking a block, or you can use a pillow if you don't have one, and just putting it right underneath the shoulder blades. And then let yourself peel down over top, letting the top of the head come down towards the floor, and then just let the shoulder blades drape around the block off to the side, palms facing up. And you can keep your knees bent, or if it feels good, you can extend them all the way out. I'll just stay here for a few moments to just let that upper body open up. And take a little breather, which I'm sure everybody needs. So I hope you guys find that useful. If you have any questions, please reach out. Thank you. Namaste.